So the question today is, what does the strategic Bitcoin reserve mean? So this is something that's in the news a lot, it's gaining traction, and actually already a number of states are trying to have their own reserves of Bitcoin, and eventually a lot of people think that the country as a whole, the United States, will have Bitcoin in reserve for the whole nation. That would be the strategic reserve. And while it's doing that, or maybe just before or just after, there's probably going to be a race with other countries as well, because if the US does it, you can bet that other countries are going to do it anyway. Let me just explain first of all what the whole point of a reserve is. Now, it used to be that fiat money like the US dollar was actually linked to gold and other assets. In fact, that's the whole concept of a banknote, that the banknote is written on paper, which in itself is worthless, right? It's just a sliver of cellulose, basically. But it's actually like a promise or a contract that says whoever holds this note, the bearer, can go approach the central bank and actually exchange it for real assets of some worth equivalent to what it says on the note. So that was a link that existed up until, I think, in the 1970s. The gold standard was broken. And it also means, unfortunately, that governments can just now print money at will, increase the money supply, and it means that everyone's wealth becomes lower. That is not a good thing. That's one of the reasons why Bitcoin came into existence and has become so popular. But yeah, it's generally recognized that our reserves that we have are not as strong as they used to be because of that broken link. And I think when Bitcoin becomes part of the reserve, not sure if the intention is to relink the US dollar to those reserves. But now let me explain that even though any links between US dollar fiat money and anything in your reserves held at Fort Knox or whatever, even though that link is broken, there's still a lot of power in having assets in reserve. So even the gold today, there's still a lot of power. It's basically it provides like a lot of stability and security. You basically want assets that are going to retain their value over time, even times of great uncertainty or inflation. Gold keeps its value, and Bitcoin is expected in the long run to do the same. I mean, at the moment it just goes up in value, but at some point it's expected to just hold its value when it stabilizes more. So that's the first thing to say about reserves. And by having Bitcoin reserves, also what that means is you got another type of asset that can be held on reserve. And again, that's a great thing if a country can diversify and have multiple different types of assets, not relying on any single asset. This enhances financial stability. This is always a good thing for an economy, for a currency. It means it just suddenly won't weaken or get attacked or anything like that. It's very reassuring to investors. It's reassuring also to trading partners. It speaks to the stability of the economy if you have a wide range and a decent amount of reserves. And you may think like, well, you know, the thing about reserves is like, in a way, they're there in case the so-called proverbial shit hits the fan, right? Then the government could potentially liquidate them and put money into the economy. But really, it's kind of like the nuclear option. Like, you know, when it comes to the whole nuclear weapons thing, the most effective thing about those weapons is never having to use them. And it's a similar thing with reserves. Most of the benefit is not really thinking about the scenario where you might need them, but you actually derive benefit just because you have them on standby, basically. So gives a lot of confidence in anyone having any dealings with those countries. So yeah, it also gives like a lot of other leverage, like international trade leverage, and you know, you can use it in strategic financial planning and stuff like that. I mean, there's another similar thing that happened, like when the North Sea oil was discovered, and Britain and Norway split it up, and unfortunately Britain kind of squandered that money, but what Norway did was to create a sovereign wealth fund, and this is considered to have been a real, genius move, and is part of the reason why that country is so strong economically still today. And all that stuff I mentioned as well. It also plays its part among a whole load of other things, but in making sure that a country has good credit ratings. So basically, having decent amount of diversified reserves shows that a country and its economy are stable and great place to invest, among other things, obviously. But I can't really see any downsides of having Bitcoin in reserve. I see only upsides. So that's basically what a strategic Bitcoin reserve is. No one knows for sure if it's going to happen, but it does kind of look like it's on the cards. It's not far away. There's the states are already trying to do it themselves. Various, I guess, Bitcoin maxis who are looking to push that through. Something to mention, by the way, is if you don't know, Bitcoin is like the daddy of all crypto. It was originally intended as a kind of a coin to replace regular day-to-day money transactions and things like that, but it actually is not that suitable for that. It turns out that its main benefit is as a store of wealth, just like gold, which is why many people call it digital gold. So, that's what makes it uniquely suitable to be this new reserve asset. And yeah, it's the daddy of all crypto. No other crypto would exist without the confidence and the stability of Bitcoin. So it is definitely the best candidate. Perhaps there may be other cryptos that are important that are also going to be put into reserve, like Ethereum maybe, which is kind of like the number two. Some people say that if Bitcoin is gold. Some people call Ethereum silver, but other people, I think there's a better phrase, other people call it digital oil, and I do agree with that actually. It is kind of just like oil. It enables all sorts of utility, whereas Bitcoin is simply just a store of wealth. So having said that, the only one that you really need as a strategic reserve, or in such a reserve, is Bitcoin. That's all you really need. You don't really need Ethereum. Maybe that will happen later. The main thing is Bitcoin is in there. And look, let me give you an idea, right, of what could potentially happen. So I want to describe to you what the market cap today of various assets are in the world. I'm talking about like commodities and companies and stuff. And that you've got all the tech companies, Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, etc. And they're all about 2 to 3 trillion worth market cap. And just behind them, you've got Bitcoin, which is about 1.9 trillion. Now, way out in front, you've got gold, 19 trillion. Okay, that's way out in front of Bitcoin and all these companies. So you've got way out in front gold, 19 trillion. Then you've got all these tech companies around 3 trillion, significantly lower. And just behind them, Bitcoin on about 2 trillion. But look at that, right? Bitcoin is 2, gold is 20. Now imagine if Bitcoin becomes part of the United States and other countries' strategic reserve. It is not going to remain at only 2 trillion. I would expect it absolutely to overtake all those tech companies. Where will it end up? Will it get close to gold? Will it match gold at probably wouldn't be 20 trillion, because you would expect to see some outflows out of gold if Bitcoin catches up. But will it get the same level as gold, or will it even surpass gold when you consider the properties of both gold and Bitcoin? In my humble opinion, Bitcoin is a more secure store of wealth than gold. Gold has various disadvantages. It's heavy. It's kind of bulky. It's not as bulky as some other metals like silver, for example, but it's still a bit bulky. If we're talking at the big company and governmental level, it's not that easy to transport. You really have to guard it with a heavy security presence. You don't need to do that with Bitcoin. It's totally digital. So Bitcoin has way more advantages, in my opinion. I don't know how long it will take, but in my opinion, the market cap of Bitcoin will surpass gold, and then we're probably looking at like 10x for Bitcoin from here. That's just the way I read it. You may have your own opinion. Let me know what you think about a strategic reserve for Bitcoin. Leave a comment down below. If you like this, what I just discussed, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye.